For the last about 2 months, I've been working alone on my own projects. There were a couple of things, mechanical things and technical things, that I wanted to try out. I wanted to get a feel for and see how I can work with them. Most specifically, it was hexagonal grids, which is just a really cool subject. I found amazing online resources for that. And I just really like hexagonal grids mechanically and also technically. The math behind how you deal with them, I think, is really cool. I'm a really big nerd. Anyways, so yeah, that's beside the point. So I was dealing with these things, and I kind of wanted to do it just to try. It wasn't. I didn't think that I was going to have some amazing revelation or something amazing is going to come out of it, and a magical game that I really want to make right now. I just wanted to try it out, and that's why I did a series of like 1 week or 2 week. I was very strict about it in terms of limiting the amount of time I'm going to spend on each one of these ideas, because I wanted to just do it, get it over with, and move forward. But the big point here is that I worked alone. I worked alone for the last month plus, and just did these things, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was interesting. I learned a lot, and I'm happy for it. But I worked alone, and this is the big thing here. I didn't really show anybody my work. It's not that I have a ton to show, but I have a couple of very small prototypes that do very specific things, kind of like what I wanted to get out of it. And I worked alone. And it was an experience that I've had before, but it was really, I was really trying to self-manage a lot. I've learned a lot and read a lot about management and how to, in terms of production, in terms of how to manage a team, agile methodologies and all kinds of things like that, which really interest me and I really enjoy. And this was kind of like a little bit of practice, but I was working alone, and it is not the greatest thing in the world. And to contrast that, the big thing that is what I want to talk about today is there's a game that has been on a very, very low burner for a long amount of time. I started working on it like 2.5 years ago, something like that, back when I was still a student with a friend of mine, which was another student who doesn't really live here, so we communicate via Skype always. We're distributed, just the two of us. But now he's actually here, and we got to working on this game that we want to finally put out. I'm going to be very real here, and it's probably going to take us a couple of months. We're going to finish what we need to do, because most of the content is there, most everything is there. We're going to finish what we want to do in the next month or so, but then we still need, one of the big things is sounds and music, which we don't have yet, and we want to have a finished game and then send it off to a couple of people and see what kind of sounds they come up with, and then we just kind of deploy it to the stores. It's a mobile game. It's a small little cute little thing that it's nothing amazing, but it's our baby. We've been working on it for such a long amount of time that we want to finish it. We want to put it out. I'm going to be really happy when it's finally out. And he's over here now, and we got to work together. And in that working together, the back and forth that we have is fantastic. It is so much fun. It is really the core and the thing that brings the passion there. For me, in terms of making games, in terms of the actual development of a game. It is so essential. It is so wonderful and important. It is where ideas are formed and where it actually happens, where the magic happens. And you don't get that when you're alone. Now, clearly, we've been working together for a long amount of time, and this project, we've been with it for a long amount of time. So we both know where we started, and we know our goals, and we know the entire progression of it. And that's actually brought me to something that I want to talk about today, and that is, we all know if you develop games, one of the things that is very, very important is feedback. Get feedback all the time. Feedback. Show your damn game in whatever state it may be. Show it to people and get feedback. It is so important, but often it's just said in a very general state. And there are actually two distinctions and two things that I want here. The first one is kind of what usually happens, and that is what you want to show your game to new people. You want to show it to a new pair of eyes and see what they say just from accepting the game as it is right now. And that is very important. That happens, and you want to do that as much as you can. But another thing is, and this is especially important if you work alone, also in a team, but in a team you get some of that. Especially if you work alone, you want to have people that you constantly show the game to. that are almost like a part of the team. They might not be on your team, but they are constantly there, and they see the progression of the game, and they know the goals. They're essentially team members that only give feedback and don't actually do anything on the project. But sometimes they can even tell you, like, help you in terms of how to do things. I'm taking from me and my partner. I do 100%, not did, we're still working on it. I do 100% of the code, and he does 100% of the art. And even though we have our very separate disciplines, when he brings in new art, I get to say on this new art, and he takes what I'm saying, into consideration, because obviously he decides eventually, because, he knows more about art than I do. But because I've been there throughout the entire time, because I know what we're trying to do, I know the theme, I do have a say, even though I suck at art, about what should go in there. And the same goes for the other way around, in terms of me programming, in terms of me implementing things that we want to do, how to do that. I could use a back and forth with him, even though that's not his discipline, even though he doesn't do code. And it's just so essential and so useful and so much fun, I have to say. It is the sauce, that is there, the collaboration in game development, in making a project. And I really think it's really important. So even if you're working alone, get feedback all the time. That's true. Check. But also try and have people that you constantly come back to, that see you through the progression of the game, and get more from them, and talk to them. Sometimes you have very little to say because you're not going to go into deep with people who just saw the game for 5 minutes and they're never going to see it again. But have team members that aren't on your team in that sense. And a cool thing you could do, if you're solo, find another person who's solo and do that for each other. Develop your own games and not help each other in the development of your own game, but be team members for the other person. I think that could be a really cool thing to do. And I don't really want to develop games alone, but if I ever find myself that I'm trying to do something on my own, I will definitely try and do this as well. I think it's a really, really useful thing to try and think about and do, because, man, feedback is important, and this is a great way to get it. So, yeah, that's what happened to me recently. This game, if I'm realistic, it'll take a while. I don't know. I don't want to throw out any random numbers because it's not going to mean anything. But hey, I might make a couple of videos about it once we have something more coherent. Well, we'll see. We'll just see. I'm not going to babble anymore. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.